The National Desk, America's News Now.
The American heat dome continues to scorch millions of Americans. When will it finally end? Rate hikes could be coming again as the Fed chair hasn't finished his job of slowing economic growth.
Although inflation has moved down from its peak, a welcome development, it remains too high. We are prepared to raise rates further if appropriate and intend to hold policy at a restrictive level.
It's the most famous mugshot in the world. Who benefits the most from Donald Trump's latest arrest?
Have you seen Donald Trump's mugshot yet? Mr. President, are you worried at all about that?
I did see it on television.
What'd you think?
Handsome guy. Wonderful guy.
This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. We're happy you're here with us on a Friday. And this heat dome that has been covering almost all of central United States is being pushed south a little bit, giving some relief to the Great Lakes states. But 106 million people, they remain under heat alerts today. Even so, over the weekend, the heat wave will intensify, breaking or tying dozens of records through Monday in the south and southeast. Florida and the Carolinas will reach record-breaking heat for this time of year in the upper 90s Saturday and Sunday. The bulk of the extreme heat will be in areas adjacent to the Gulf of Mexico. NOAA reporting thousands of daily high temperature records have been broken in the past 30 days, with heat indices topping 130 degrees. As this heat persists in the south, something to keep an eye on is the tropical disturbance approaching the Gulf of Mexico and headed towards the panhandle of Florida. At the moment, NOAA gives it a 30% chance of developing into a depression in the next 48 hours, but a 70% chance of doing so within the next 7 days. The warm Gulf waters could turn this into a tropical storm or even a hurricane by Sunday or early next week. At least 2 tornadoes touched down in Michigan last night as severe storms tore through the state, bringing heavy rains and strong winds. The storms, they downed several trees. You can see behind me, they tore roofs off of buildings and killed at least 5 people, including a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. Today, more than 400,000 people are still without power. The National Weather Service confirming an EF1 tornado with winds of 90 miles per hour in Ingham County, and an EF0 tornado with peak winds of 80 miles per hour in Wayne County. NWS officials said they would be conducting damage surveys in Kent County today, where another tornado is suspected of passing through. Fed Chair Jerome Powell gave his annual economic symposium speech today in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. He says more rate increases may be necessary because the economy is growing faster than expected and Americans continue to spend. His posture, though, has not changed. Until inflation is down to 2%, the Fed won't flinch.
On a 12-month basis, core goods inflation remains well above its pre-pandemic level. Sustained progress is needed, and restrictive monetary policy is called for to achieve that progress.
The Fed's benchmark rate is at 22-year highs of 5.4%. Inflation is down from a peak of 9.1% in June of last year to 3.2% now. The hikes have driven up loan rates, making it harder for some to afford a home or a car or to afford business expansions. Meantime, according to a new study, the pandemic-era expansion of federal food stamps is responsible for increasing food prices over the past 2 years. National correspondent Janae Bowens has the details.
High prices are frustrating Americans across the country.
The food is just ridiculous. It's just so expensive.
A new study from the Foundation for Government Accountability shows the expansion of SNAP, also known as the food stamp program, is helping to drive up those grocery prices by at least 15%. They blame the Biden administration for increasing SNAP benefits by an average of 27% back in 2021.
It's kind of hard out here.
Former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers has been sounding the alarm for years on how government relief drives inflation. This is what he said in 2021. That's after President Joe Biden signed the $1.9 trillion coronavirus stimulus package.
I think this is the least responsible macroeconomic policies we've had in the last 40 years. I think fundamentally it's driven by intransigence on the Democratic left and intransigence and completely unreasonable behavior in the whole of the Republican Party.
But when it comes to food stamps, advocates say the extra funding is needed.
Boost to SNAP benefits in late 2021 reduce poverty for Black and Latina people and help reduce racial disparities. So as we think about improving SNAP, our eye must remain on how we can reduce those disparities and not increase them by making harmful cuts.
Now, food stamp funding will be a key focus when Congress returns next month. Now, House Democrats sent a letter to Speaker Kevin McCarthy raising concerns over Republican threats to cut SNAP eligibility and benefits, potentially setting up another budget battle on Capitol Hill.
How much would be saved, Janae, if there were cuts to SNAP?
Right. So according to that study, they estimate it would save the country $193 billion. Dee.
Janae Bowens reporting tonight from the Capitol. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Get ready for another possible strike. The United Auto Workers Union in Detroit says their members have ratified a strike in an online vote, which as many as 97% in favor if a deal is not reached with the big three automakers before the September 14th deadline. UAW represents about 146,000 workers at General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. Ford said today, we look forward to working with the UAW on creative solutions during this time when our dramatically changing industry needs a skilled and competitive workforce more than ever. Union President Shawn Fain said negotiations are not progressing fast enough, although a strike is not guaranteed. Maui County released the names of 388 people still unaccounted for since the devastating wildfires earlier this month. FBI officials say this list is only those who are confirmed missing, meaning someone reported their names to authorities. Officials are still trying to determine exactly how many people are unaccounted for, but more than 1,700 people who had originally been reported as missing have since been found safe. 115 people are confirmed dead. A massive fire erupted at a refinery storage tank in a town 40 miles west of New Orleans. You can see the black smoke from space. So far, there are no reported injuries, but residents within a mile of the Marathon Petroleum Refinery in Garyville have been ordered to evacuate due to possible chemical exposure. The company says the fire is contained to the property. Officials are monitoring the environmental impact and they plan to investigate the cause. Also in Louisiana, the entire town, look right here, of Maryville, it remains on a mandatory evacuation alert. Wildfires still are outside of city limits, but fire department officials say spot fires continue to pop up, and there was a decrease in the 85% containment they had this morning due to shifting winds and rekindling. More than 1,500 lightning strikes overnight in Oregon has led to new wildfires. The largest so far today is a 40-acre Camp Creek fire south of Bull Run. This is in addition to at least 19 fires already burning on the West Coast. In Medford, Oregon, some residents may have woken up to an air quality level of 252. Anything over 100 is considered unhealthy. And just east of Medford, in the town Merlin, today's air quality was as high as 339. That is considered hazardous for everyone. The two-day trial over part of President Biden's immigration policy wrapped up today in a Texas courtroom. The lawsuit is over a program allowing 30,000 people into the U.S. each month from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. The Justice Department argues it's preventing the border from being overwhelmed. But Republican states say the program is unlawful, that officials are granting parole en masse. The judge is not expected to rule immediately, meaning a decision could come months from now. And a Texas judge blocked the state's ban on gender-affirming care for minors. The Attorney General's office said immediately they will appeal the decision. And while in Missouri, a judge allowed a similar ban on care for minors to go into effect. A U.S. district judge ruled that West Virginia can now block the sale of the abortion drug mifepristone. Gen Biopro sued West Virginia in January, arguing the state's law banning the drug was in direct conflict with federal rules. However, the judge disagreed and referenced the Supreme Court's 2022 decision to leave abortion up to the states. We have new details to share with you. The pilot of a U.S. Marine Corps fighter jet that crashed near San Diego late last night has been confirmed dead. Search and rescue teams recovered that pilot's body this morning at the crash site, which is on government property near Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. The pilot was the only person on board the aircraft, and according to the Marines, the pilot's identity will not be released until 24 hours after their family has been notified. The cause of the crash is currently being investigated. Education remains an increasingly politically charged topic. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins breaks down the debate on how to turn around the poor academic performance plaguing school districts across the country.
The battle over the best way to educate the next generation remaining red hot.
Do you think parents are becoming more skeptical of public education?
Conservative commentator Armstrong Williams hosting a Sinclair town hall this week unpacking the current crisis in American classrooms as test scores slip to the lowest in decades, according to the nation's report card. The panelists debating school choice, where parents can use their tax dollars to pay for an education of their choosing. School choice advocate Corey DeAngelis championing the measure.
Maybe parents know their kids better than bureaucrats sitting in offices hundreds of miles away.
Critic Dr. Josh Cowan arguing while school choice may address social or cultural disagreements parents have with certain school systems, the data shows it does not improve academic outcomes.
As bad as some children might be doing in some of the public schools in some of the areas, they do a lot worse when they transfer to private schools using these vouchers.
Stacey Childs, a member of the Texas State Board of Education, says the answer to increasing academic outcomes is increasing teacher salaries.
I can't even pay my bills when the paycheck comes. Then why would I feel excited about meeting your standards? Why would I even want to?
The debate also focusing on the power and influence of teachers' unions, a charged topic following school closures and recent pushes among union leaders for educators to implement DEI ideas in the classroom.
These teacher unions think that they can displace the role of parents in a child's life. So it is absolutely no surprise that parents don't like that very much. They want out.
With a record number of states expanding school choice this year, the question is if the momentum will continue for 2024. I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Coming up here on the National Desk, all 18 of Trump's co-defendants in the Georgia election case have now surrendered, who wasn't released on bail. Plus, paper straw controversy, what researchers found in the eco-friendly alternative that can lead to numerous health issues. Plus, a fiery car explosion officials say was set off deliberately. We have the shocking new video showing how it all went down. The final two Trump co-defendants in the Georgia election interference case, Travion Kuti and Stephen Lee, turned themselves in today before the noon deadline. The next step is for all 19 to be arraigned in court. So far, only Kenneth Chesebro has a court date set September 6th. He also has a trial date for October 23rd after requesting a speedy trial. DA Fonnie Willis wants to try all co-defendants at the same time, but the presiding judge ruled the trial order is only for Chesebro at this time. 18 of the 19 charged have been released on bail except Harrison Floyd, the leader of Black Voices for Trump. Floyd remains in custody in Fulton County Jail because he has not accepted a bond agreement. Floyd is also charged with assault against a federal officer in Maryland, stemming from an altercation he and with 2 FBI agents who served him with federal grand jury summons 3 months ago. Former President Donald Trump turned himself in for arrest yesterday and turned it into a positive for his campaign coffers by selling merchandise. The legal charges, though, may be a bit more complicated than his other indictments. Chief political correspondent Scott Thuman shows us how.
It is an image that in past political eras would have doomed a candidate. Yet Donald Trump actually fundraising off of it, putting his mugshot on everything from T-shirts to coffee mugs to beer koozies, and boldly proclaiming prosecutors made a mistake by charging him with racketeering crimes.
What has taken place here is a travesty of justice. We did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong.
In my book, Get Trump, I predicted all 4 of these indictments. What I did not predict is a RICO charge because it's so out of the ballpark.
While defense attorney Alan Dershowitz says proving the 19 defendants were all conspiring together is tough, he admits prosecutors have one distinct advantage.
You can always assume that somebody will turn on a defendant because remember, they have so much leverage. They can threaten years and years in prison.
But if they don't, he says, RICO charges get trickier. Yet the district attorney confident the evidence is there.
Acts of racketeering activity are crimes that are alleged to have been committed in furtherance of the criminal enterprise.
Probably the prosecutor's advantage in state court in Georgia is she does have experience with these cases. She's brought them, as you pointed out, against other individuals. This is still an unwieldy prosecution, and it's going to be a challenge in the courtroom.
Especially as prosecutors initially stated they plan to try all 19 defendants together. Congressman Ken Buck, also a former prosecutor.
You know, RICO has to do with organized crime. If this is a crime at all, I think it's a disorganized crime, and I don't think these folks are willing to testify against the former president of the United States.
And all of this could become even more difficult if Trump, like his former chief of staff, requests that his case be moved to a potentially more friendly federal court. Attorneys telling me today that argument alone could go all the way to the Supreme Court. In Washington, Scott Thuman for the National Desk.
Scott, thank you. Who won a particular political debate, especially with multiple contestants, could be a subject to answer, but a plurality believe Florida Governor Ron DeSantis actually was the most impressive on Wednesday night. According to a post-debate poll by the Washington Post, 538 and Ipsos, 29% say DeSantis won the debate. Tech entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy comes in second with 26% saying he performed the best. And former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley comes in third with 15%, followed by former Vice President Mike Pence at 7%. The rest earned 4% or less. Happening today, Russia denying any involvement in Wednesday's plane crash that is believed to have killed mercenary leader Yevgeny Prigozhin. A Kremlin spokesman says the Western assessment that the plane was downed by an intentional explosion is a complete lie. U.S. officials told ABC today that it was likely a bomb placed on the plane causing the crash, and they believe Prigozhin probably was targeted for the failed coup attempt in June. Paper or bamboo straws are becoming mandatory in many restaurants around the country to save the environment, but they may be harming you. Researchers found low concentrations of potentially dangerous forever chemicals called PFAS in these straws, raising doubts about whether they are an appropriate alternative to plastic straws. Other researchers say if you use the straws in one sitting, the transfer of PFAS into the drink is generally minimal. Still something to think about. Hyundai is recalling nearly 40,000 cars because of a software error. The recall covers certain models 2021 to 2023 Elantra HEV vehicles, a total of nearly 38,000. The software issue can cause the car to accelerate after the brake pedal is released, increasing the risk of a crash. ELAF Aeronautics, a San Francisco Bay Area startup, has received federal permission to test their new flying car in the Silicon Valley. The car will be fully electric, made partially with 3D printed parts for the prototype. Engineers say the vehicle will have top speeds of 200 miles per hour in the air with a range of 110 miles. It can also drive with a road range of 200 miles. The exhibition is planned for the end of this year with production to begin by the end of 2025. Wow. SpaceX and NASA's joint mission to the International Space Station is set to launch early tomorrow morning. The launch of SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule Endurance for this morning was canceled due to unresolved technical items. The mission will take 4 astronauts from 4 different agencies to the ISS. And tomorrow, thousands are expected to march in what the organizers they call it the continuation of the 1963 March on Washington, marking the 60th anniversary, which is officially on Monday. A broad coalition with 100-plus multicultural organizations will come together to push for peace, justice, and equality. Martin Luther King King III, says this anniversary gives us the opportunity to make life better for everyone, a mission his dad, Martin Luther King Jr., dedicated his life's work to. This weekend, the event will address a range of topics, including threats to democracy, criminal justice reform, and voting rights. Coming up next here, residents outraged after a Florida county removed a long-standing roadside memorial. Why it was taken down and what the county is saying about the decision now. The National Desk team of reporters is bringing you the headlines from coast to coast. We're taking the pulse of America.
December 23rd, during the height of holiday shopping, this sudden and shocking blast ripped away the entrance to Everett's Fred Meyer store. All of it the crazy conclusion of a weird standoff. It started 2 hours earlier when this car looped around the parking lot. As you see, the word satanic was spray painted on its side, which caused police to investigate. They learned the driver of this car was a man named Ronald Lewis, and moments after he was stopped, video shows him slowly rolling towards the store's front entrance. After several minutes, Lewis then revs the car all the way into the actual store. He then refused to come out. Video shows police arriving with guns drawn and firefighters preparing for trouble. Little did they know how much they would soon be needed. Moments later, the car bursts into flames. According to court papers, Lewis had both a propane tank and open gas cans in his car. Moments after the blast, video shows firefighters scrambling to get him to safety. As you see right here, they dragged him more than 30 feet as flames got higher and higher. Lewis was burned, had to be taken to the hospital. In the end, damage to the Everett Fred Meyer store exceeded $50,000.
Now over to North Carolina. A Haywood County woman has been sentenced to 2 years in prison for sending threats to local officials. According to investigators, Darris Moody found false paperwork with the county's Register of Deeds. to have the officials charged with multiple crimes. She also posted notices containing their personal information, claiming anyone could make a citizen's arrest for a $10,000 bounty. Two of the officials named said the sentence was just.
It not only affected me, but more importantly, it affected my family, it affected my coworkers, it affected my friends.
And Moody pleaded guilty back in January. In Florida, Palm Beach County officials say the removal of an almost 30-year-old roadside memorial was a mistake. The memorial paid tribute to 5 teenagers who were killed in a horrific crash in the 90s. The county said it was removed last week along with 2 others after a complaint was made because it was in a public right-of-way. One of the victim's twin sisters, who is one of 2 survivors of the crash, called the removal unfair and not right.
It's shocking that nobody would have notified the victims' families so that we could at least have gotten their photos and mementos prior to desecrating this memorial site. It's outrageous. It's shocking.
In a statement, the county said it plans to reinstall the memorial to its original location. Coming up next here, if you're a movie lover, stick around. The low price you could buy your tickets for this Sunday and why theaters are offering the discount. If you had a Facebook account anytime between May 24th of 2007 and December 22nd, 2022, today is your last day to file a claim for a piece of a $725 million settlement with Meta. To submit a claim, if you haven't already, go to Facebook, user privacysettlement.com. The window to file closes at 11:59 Pacific time tonight. If eligible, the amount you will receive will depend on how long you were a user and how many people issue claims. If you've been waiting to watch the latest Hollywood release but don't want to spend too much money on tickets, this Sunday may be your day. About 3,000 theaters are offering $4 tickets to commemorate National Cinema Day, some even offering discounted popcorn. Check participating theaters at nationalcinemaday.com. And that's going to do it for us for now. I'm Dee Dee Gatton. Have a great weekend, and thanks for watching.